therefore in the order. Reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling 508-945-4410. That's 508-945-4410. Enter conference ID 370-403-592 #. 370-403-592 #. Or one may join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access, but we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. In accordance with town policy, the public can speak to any issue or business item on the agenda during the meeting when recognized by me. We are going to sweep the floor of our remaining articles for the annual town meeting coming up in approximately 6 weeks. We have a variety of things, a couple of financial things, some housing-related things, some zoning amendments. So without further ado, let's take attendance. Norma?
Aye. Here.
Thank you. Kristen, I know, is out today. Tommy?
Here.
Barbara?
Here.
John Papalardo is sadly out today. Tracy?
Here.
Joanne? Here. Andy? Here. Chair is present. I would like to take a moment to recognize our friend and colleague John, whose mother passed away yesterday morning. Tony was a real ray of sunshine for those of us who knew her, and she'll be dearly missed. I know we're all thinking of John and his family. So with that, Alex, please, wastewater capital stabilization fund proposal.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, you've seen this article a few years ago when we had proposed creating a wastewater capital stabilization fund to be funded from the funds that we received under the Harwich IMA, the intermunicipal agreement for sewer. So a few years ago, we received $2,265,000, and that has been, per the Department of Revenue, carried forward in free cash every year since then, because we haven't utilized it or segregated it for a separate purpose. So we again are proposing to create a wastewater capitalization fund and to appropriate that $2,265,000, as well as any of the milestone payments or payments received under the Harwich IMA, of which we had 2 more received in January. So those would be deposited into this fund, as well as if it receives a positive vote at town meeting. So what this would do would go into that fund. It would require a 2/3 vote to be used at town meeting. So again, it would be used for future wastewater capital expenditures, most likely for items that we do not qualify for the 0% loan interest rates through the Clean Water Trust. So design and engineering doesn't qualify for those low interest rates. So we have to go out and issue general obligation bonds. If we have this money available, we could use that for the design and engineering costs rather than having to borrow at a 3 or 3.5% interest rate in the future. So that's basically it in a nutshell. We tried this in town meeting 2019, but it did fail at that time because I think the Finance Committee wasn't sure. Some members of the Finance Committee at the time wanted to use it for wastewater. Some thought it would be good for OPEB funding. Some thought it would be good for any capital. But I'm happy to answer any questions you might have regarding this article.
Okay, questions? Norma, please.
How much more money does Harwich owe us?
We have 2 more payments of $1.5 million each to be received. Those are the milestone payments. We did receive the 1.5 in January, along with a $2 million being their share of the cost to do the pump station.
And to be clear, Alex, there'll be ongoing payments based on capacity and flow.
Yes.
Over time. The intent is that those will be directed here as well?
Those would be directed here as well. We do have the operating costs, which would not be directed into this stabilization fund. That would offset the operating costs.
Thank you. Joanne, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are you saying that none of this money has been spent so far?
It remains in the, we're recommending that the $2.265 million be transferred to the capitalization fund, the full amount that was received back in 2019.
So is that amount, every time you mention the total amount in free cash, are you including this each time?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, other questions? Barbara, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alex, on the off chance that we did not spend all of this money on whatever it is that we're allowed to spend it on, could we then revert it back 20 years from now if it were still there?
If it was still there, it would take a town meeting vote to take that money out and repurpose it for another use, yes.
Okay, further questions? Andy?
And the threshold for the town meeting vote is,
This actually now, for a to create a capitalization fund, I have to look. I know it's 2/3 to get it out, but I believe it's a simple majority to put it into the capital fund. That changed a few years ago.
right, thank you.
Okay. Alex, I do have a question pursuant to kind of what Barbara just alluded to. 6.765 million dollars going into the stabilization fund intended for kind of non-reimbursable expenses, or do we have a sense of the magnitude of those? I mean, are we killing the elephant 3 times, or do we think we could actually use that money over the next X years, 10, 15, whatever?
I think we could. We might not be able to use it all for design and engineering,
Yeah.
but it could also be used to pay for some of the debt service related to some of the capital. Or rather than borrowing, even if it's at a 0%, it could be used for that as well. But I have a feeling that we will have plenty of wastewater expenditures over the next 20 years.
Okay. And to be clear, it'll be take a 2/3, as of things stand now, take a 2/3 vote of town meeting to release those funds to whatever designated purpose
Correct.
is proposed.
Yep.
Okay. Further questions? Okay, if not, I'll take a motion to support.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Tommy. Norma?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes,
The chair votes yes.
Thank
Guess you
you.
can wear us down after 2 or 3 years. All right, we'll look forward to seeing that free cash number plummet.
Well, if this hadn't passed, it would, or if it does not pass at town meeting, it will go up exponentially next year because we have additional 3 million that we received this year.
Yeah. Okay, so next on my agenda is funding article for the architectural design and engineering services at 193 Stony Hill Road, a companion article of the 1610 Main Street proposal.
Yes, that's correct. And this is, and unfortunately, you have the old agenda item because we're funding this from free cash, not from the percent for allocated for attainable housing, as that has not passed the legislature yet. We had to petition the legislature to do that, which we have done recently, or will. So that's been up. So anyway, this is a request for $75,000 to come from free cash, and that would be to support design engineering for the 193 Stony Hill Road, should the Center for Active Living, also known as Council on Aging project, pass at town meeting. This would not move forward if that article does not pass, so it is a contingent article based on the passage of the Council on Aging or Center for Active Living project.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Questions for Alex?
Or for Gloria,
Or
who's
for
here.
Gloria, who just walked in? We're reviewing the $75,000 for architectural design services at 193. Is there anything you'd like to throw in on it?
I just said that this was funding from free cash, and that this is contingent if the Center for Active Living article does pass. And if it doesn't pass, then there will be no action on this article, and the funds would remain in free cash. But we figured that this was a good way to, keep the momentum going to have 193 repurposed for attainable and/or affordable housing.
Yeah, the purpose of this is really to make the process seamless so that if 1610 passes and everything happens where it's rebuilt and the COA moves over there, before they move out, we've already hit the ground running. We've already drawn up architectural plans, and so as soon as they move out, if that passes, we can start with the construction right away.
Okay, questions for Alex or Gloria, please? Barbara?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Presumably, there's some law somewhere that states that we have to go outside of any talent that we might have available in town and pay for this. Is that right?
For the design and engineering,
Yeah.
design and engineering, we usually look for design and engineering. I don't think we have anyone on staff who has the wherewithal to perform this right now. So we do contract, I believe we're contracting with, is it Barrett right now for a couple of places?
Oh, so, no, they're doing like engagement about like
That's right.
what the plans might be for Meeting House Road and the Main Street former Buckley property. I think Alex is right. We don't really have that kind of staff ability where they can analyze and do a feasibility study of like the structure and the renovation possibility. And then part of this would be for actual architectural drawings. And it's something that we would go out with an RFP for consultant services. So design and engineering, both architecture and engineering.
So in other words, we wouldn't, it's not something that we could ask if we had retired architects living here who would be happy to donate their time to do something like this. That's not allowed, or, it seems, I'm going to vote for this, but it just seems to me that we've spent an awful lot of money having architects draw things that have never been used. And I was just wondering if we ever go out to the general public, we have a lot of talent who's retired here who might be willing to help us with that, and I just wondered if that's something that's not allowed.
I think that the standard practice when you expend municipal funds is that you have to put out an RFP. It wouldn't preclude someone from responding and saying that I'm happy to do this gratis, or give a below market price in order to help the town. But in general, when we do work, we have to put out an RFP.
Okay.
I see the town manager would like to comment.
Town Manager Goldsmith, please. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex. I just want to make sure, Alex, for the funding source, that it is indeed free cash versus the tax rate.
No, this is on the tax rate. We're not taking, I don't think we're taking this from free cash.
I thought you made.
Did I say free
you
cash?
made a
Yeah, you just-
prelude to
You
your
did say that.
comments that we were taking it from free cash. I thought that's what you just said a couple minutes ago. Let's confirm that.
Hold on, let me pull up my cheat sheet. The scorecard does say from the tax levy.
Jill, do you have a different view than that?
Oh, that is my view. So I just want to make sure that it is from the tax levy and not the tax rate, so that Alex can announce the tax implication or the potential increase to the tax rate.
Well, at $75,000, it should be 0.85 of a cent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not coming from free cash. It is coming from the tax rate and the projected tax rate. Joanne?
That's my next question.
And this does include the $1 million for the Eldridge Public Library HVAC system, as well as the petition article that you will hear in a few minutes for $200,000 for the airport, and the $75,000. We're expecting a 4.16% increase to the tax rate, and an estimated tax rate based on our current valuation, again, estimated, it would be $4.04.
Did you mean 1 million for the HVAC system for the library, or 2 million?
1 million is coming from free cash, and 1 million is coming from the tax rate.
Okay, sorry, thanks.
Joanne, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And what sort of increase is this tax rate from last year, please? Just for the listening public.
4.16%, 16 cents.
And Alex and I reviewed those numbers this morning and updated our report to the warrant with that information.
All right, just one more question before we leave
Please.
this. Can you give us that time frame again, supposing this article, both articles are approved, as far as when this money will be, when you'll start spending this money, and it's strictly for architectural plans and
potentially engineering also.
engineering, yes.
So we would look to put out an RFP very shortly after the start of FY '24, so this summer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, further questions? Gloria, just a quick one. Is there within the department a concept around what to do with the parcel? Is the idea to scrape the existing structure and just start new? Is there any sentiment towards trying to retrofit the existing?
I think the general thinking is that if we can preserve the building and retrofit it, that's what we'll do. I think that it depends on an architect's analysis about whether you can get a reasonable number of units out of it, an engineer's analysis about any structural deficits that might be there. So it's a little bit up in the air, but I would say that we would definitely prefer to keep the structure if at all possible.
Okay, thank you. All right, Norma, please.
If the article concerning the property at 1610 Main Street does not pass, will anything be done to this Stony Hill property?
No, not according to any of these warrant articles. It's all dependent on building a new Center for Active Living and moving over there.
All right, if there are no further questions, I'll take a motion to adopt Article, do you have a number? Article XX, Design and Engineering for Reuse of Stony Hill Road in the amount of $75,000 coming off the tax rate.
So moved.
Second.
All right, thank you, Norma. Support? Do you support this proposed article? Thank you. Tommy?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Excuse me, that's 7-0. All right,
Thank you. And that
Thank you.
would have been Article 21.
that's 21. So now I'm going to go back to the future to Article 19, which is zoning bylaw amendment, map change 1610 and 0 Main Street properties. Alex or Gloria?
Yes, this is just to change the zoning from, I think it's GB to municipal, and that, again, is if the Article number 18, which is the capital project borrowing for the Center for Active Living, if that passes, then it would have the contingent, it's a contingent article if that passes. So 1610 zone change to municipal, and again, the planning board voted 7 in favor, none opposed, and the select board also voted 4 in favor and none opposed for this article.
Thank you. Questions for Alex? If not, I'll take a motion to adopt proposed Article 19, the zoning bylaw amendment, changing the zoning of 1610 Main Street from GB to M.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Norma? Tommy?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 7-0. Thank you. Article 23, reuse of structures at 127 Old Harbor Road. Alex or Gloria?
Yes, thank you. I'll just introduce this, and I think Gloria could answer any questions if you have any detailed questions on this. Again, as we know, 127 Old Harbor Road has been vacant for a long time, and the Select Board has moved this to town meeting by a vote of 3 in favor and 2 opposed to take Marion Ellis Nickerson's old house, or the old water department, and transfer it for surplus to be used for affordable and/or attainable housing. So again, this is to change the purpose for the property identified as 127 Old Harbor for the purpose of affordable and/or attainable housing. So I'll let Gloria talk to any technical questions you may have on this.
Okay, questions for Alex or Gloria? Norma, please.
Just for clarification, that's Marion Nickerson Ellis.
Thank
Not
you.
Ellis
Sorry,
Nickerson.
I
But I have
reversed
a
it.
question concerning that. We have said for many years that we need affordable housing. Why has it been, Marion Ellis died quite a while ago. Why is this so long coming to town now to be acted upon?
I think there's been discussion, and the Select Board, I don't believe, moved this, trying to think of when this came before, town meeting before, if it did.
Last year.
I think it was last year, and it didn't receive the necessary vote. It was a 2/3 vote, and I believe it still is a 2/3 at this time for it to pass. So again, while the town is trying to get affordable housing wherever we can possible, it did take a 2/3 vote, and as you know, last year we had quite a few, or in the last few years, we might have received a majority votes, but we have not been able to get the 2/3 required. So hopefully with the push for affordable housing and the focus, it's hopeful that this year this will pass at town meeting.
Thank you.
Further questions? Tommy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alex, it says here that they're going to change the purpose for which a portion of the real property. Why not all the property?
That's due to the codicil that Mrs. Nickerson left to the town, where she wanted a playground on the property, which has been built. So there is a playground in the backside of the property. So we needed to subdivide the parcel so we can use some of it for housing, and then keep her wishes to use that as a playground for the children of Chatham.
Thank you.
Okay, further questions? Joanne, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Alex, I'm not clear on that statement. To keep it, to make it residential, but keep a certain part of it as playground? What, you mean the part that's already playground?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I think this is a lovely residential neighborhood, and since the playground is right next door to it, I can't see that we would be abusing her request of the town and her desire to have it used for a playground, which is for the children. This certainly would be available for the children as an affordable home too, I think. So I like this article, and I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, Joanne. Other comments or questions? Norma, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do I remember a conversation you and I had a few years ago where you acknowledged that Mrs. Ellis was a friend of yours? Do I recall that your thought was that you'd be delighted by having a young family in this house, and rather than having
I think she would be very pleased. They had no children. Gus Ellis was with what was Chatham Trust Company, and she was very interested in children, although they had none. And I think that at that time, I think the tenor of much of town meeting was they did not want any more children around. And I think that was the stumbling block. But she had made provisions in her will, so I don't think we had any right to abridge that. And I think they're trying to find a happy solution to serve both attainable housing and something for the children. But I think it's disgraceful that it has taken us this long to do anything about it. She died many years ago.
Thank you. Okay, further questions? If not, I'll take a motion to support Article 23, the reuse of the structure at 127 Old Harbor Road. Andy, please.
Question?
Yes, sir.
I'm in favor of this article in general, but I do have a specific question as to whether or not the 41,000 more or less square feet that's going to be rezoned is then going to be a separate lot, or whether it is simply going to be, a portion of the original lot that is then available for affordable or attainable housing.
It would actually be a separate lot with a separate zoning designation.
And therefore also then potentially conveyable.
I mean, it would still be town-owned. We own a lot of parcels, so I suppose the town could convey it, because the ownership isn't changing, just the lot line would change. So if you imagine her parcel being square, it would be cutting out the portion with the playground on it.
Right, okay. I guess my thought is that, at least for me personally, I think that it would be best if it was redeveloped as affordable or attainable housing as rental property. Available to, if there was, ideally, if there was some way that we could, target young families with children for that purpose, so that we maintain pretty strict control over the property itself. Somewhat similar to what we do at MCI. I actually think that would probably fulfill her wishes even more, right, to try to make sure that we could do that. But I know that we don't have as much latitude for specifying who can rent under state law, I guess, as I might wish. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Norma, please.
You're not talking about a very large piece of property.
No.
And if part of that, even a third to a half of it, were used for a playground, I don't think it would be that easy to rent the rest of it. And I think a happy compromise would be one that he just suggested, that the back part of it be used for playground, which empties into an existing playground, and the rest for attainable or rental housing. I think that would be a compromise with which she would be very pleased, and I think it would open up possibilities for people in town who needed to rent.
In any event, in any event, the rezoning would need to take place. Right. That's it.
That's what it sounds like. Okay, further questions? If not, I'll take a motion to support Article 23, the reuse of 127 Old Harbor Road for attainable/affordable housing.
Second.
Okay, we have 5 motions to move. Norma? Tommy?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Andy?
Yep.
Chair votes yes, 7-0. For the undertaking, thank you. All right, Article blank, general bylaw amendment to Section 10-5 of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. This, if I'm not mistaken, should find a comfortable home here, as I do think it mirrors pretty closely a recommendation of the Affordable Housing Working Group that the Finance Committee set up in 2019 now, which didn't report out until January or February of 2020, which was then nipped, of course, by the pandemic. But this is very closely resembles one of, in fact, to the point, one of our recommendations regarding the trust fund. So Gloria or Alex, would you like to speak to this for a moment, please?
Again, this is to change the makeup of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Currently, it is, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is the Select Board as well as 2 additional members to be appointed by the Select Board. So this would be, the Select Board would designate 2 of its members to serve as the Board of Trustees, appoint 1 member of the Chatham Housing Partnership, and then 4 members from the community at large, just to get a greater diversity on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and bring in different viewpoints and to, encourage affordable housing.
Perfect. Thank you, Alex. Questions? Andy, please.
My memory is faulty on this, but was this part of what we had as a petition to the general court to alter the terms of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund?
No, that was, I believe, the real estate transfer tax to designate that if that was to pass to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
And the ability to set up a second
Yes, for
200%
attainable.
AMI trust fund.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
to your question, Andy, the answer, my recollection is the answer is no.
Right. Okay, so I'm tangential, but I'm not on point.
Correct. Correct.
Thank you.
Right where you want to be. Norma?
Why was this changed?
Well, I mean, I'll let Alex talk officially. I think, just reflecting on the work of the working group, which was who? It was Tommy, Barb, Andy, Joanne, myself. The model that Chatham currently has, was we learned in our research, it was referred to as the old model, which is, the 5 select persons and then 2 members of the general public. There's a new model, which is this, which is 5 members of the public and 2 members of the select board. The evolution having occurred, I guess, largely based on what we were told, because the select board has so many things to do in their various towns and municipalities that they very often didn't spend as much time focusing on housing as was necessary. Gloria, Alex?
No, that's my understanding.
Yeah, so just to try to create more bandwidth and more activity. Joanne, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. It was to invite more public participation, I think, if I remember right, so that we could get a varied points of view other than just the sitting selectmen.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tommy Doan and I attended some home consortium group meetings that they had, and we learned that there were other towns, specifically, I believe, Orleans and possibly P-Town, who use this model, and they certainly have much more success with affordable housing than our town has. So I think we'd be well advised to adopt this model.
Terrific, thank you. Other comments or questions? Not, I'll take a motion to adopt Article X, General Bylaw Amendment regarding Section 10-5 of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, changing from 5 members of the Board of Selectmen and 2 members of the public to the obverse of 5 members of the public and 2 Select Board members.
Move it.
Thank you, Andy. Second?
Second,
Thank you. Norma?
Aye.
Tommy?
Yes.
Barbara?
yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 7-0. All right. We're herding cats. All right, potential amendment to the consolidated revolving funds, which is reestablishing the waterway user fee revolving fund to include the Shellfish Advisory Committee. That was originally not on the roster of parties to be consulted.
Yes, thank you. Yes, this will be Article number 7. And again, this is to add the Shellfish Advisory Committee to the, one of the committees that has to provide be one of the committees which must be consulted and receive a recommendation, if any, for use of the waterway user fee revolving fund. As you might recall, we established this revolving fund, I believe, in FY 2018 or 17. And again, it has the Waterways Advisory Committee, the Aunt Lydia's Cove Committee, South Coastal Harbor Plan Committee, and the Harbor Master with the approval of the town manager. This would add the Shellfish Advisory Committee to that review, the review committee. So all the waterways-related committees would have to weigh in on the use of these funds.
Okay, questions regarding proposed Article 7? Barbara?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alex, it almost seems as if the Shellfish Advisory Committee was just overlooked when they first did this. I mean, it seems like they would be a natural to be consulted, don't you think?
I think it was contemplated at first, but at the time, the Shellfish Advisory Committee, I don't know why they were left out at that time. I know that we did add Aunt Lydia's Cove at that time. That was a late addition too. So this would get all the Waterways Advisory Committees on there. And again, some of this is because some of the projects do affect the resource, the shellfish resource. So that's why it's important for them to weigh in.
Okay.
All right, Norma, please.
Since this is all interrelated, I don't understand why they were not included in the first place. I think it's overdue, and I'm glad that it's being done now.
And that's why, exactly why it's proposed now.
All right. Let's remedy that historic wrong, shall we? A motion?
So moved.
Second.
And a second, thank you. All right, to support the inclusion of the Shellfish Advisory Committee in the WOOF process. Norma?
So moved.
Approved?
Yes.
Thank you. Tommy?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 7-0, one step closer. Okay, now Article blank, which relative to Section 100-4, no obstruction permitted, allowing the Airport Commission in its sole and absolute discretion to exercise authority around obstructions into the airspace at either end of the runway. Alex, to you, please.
Okay, this is a general bylaw amendment, and again, this would add this language that the airport, and I can read this for the public, in its sole and absolute discretion and under the exercise administrative and enforcement authority, I'm just looking at this, may expend town or airport funds legally appropriated and authorized for this purpose to cover the cost of any such survey, identification and removal, lowering or other change with respect to such trees and vegetation. And I believe that this was proposed to, as in response as to the petition article and some of the removal of the vegetation. This way the town would have control of that, and this is looking, let's see. I know the town manager's on the line, so she might be able to answer any more technical questions, as I'm not as well versed in this. But this was presented to the select board on March 7th, and they voted 5 in favor and none opposed for this. And this is sort of, I believe, a companion article to the petition article. Jill, if you have anything to add to that, I would greatly appreciate it.
I'm not sure we still have the town manager. All right, questions for Alex regarding giving the Airport Commission the authority and the potential access to funding to assess and ultimately, I suppose, act upon recommendations to lower obstructions in the glide slope to the airport. Joanne, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is this petition from the neighboring citizens around the airport?
No, this is a town-sponsored article for the general bylaw amendment. There is a petition article, which we received from petitioners, and that does ask to appropriate money, but I believe that this article amends the Section 100-4, where the Airport Commission may expend town or airport funds, so funds from the airport revolving fund or any town funds that might be appropriated. So any funds would come under the Airport Commission, under their authorization, and ultimately under the authorization of the town.
And exactly what does this accomplish? Does this mean that the cutting of the trees or sharing of the trees will be handled by the town exclusively and then paid for by the town exclusively with removing the fiscal responsibility from the neighborhood? Is that, what exactly is this doing?
Let me pull up the agenda request from the select board meeting and see if I can get you a better answer from.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I guess, Joanne, I'd direct you to Section D, which is the black line section on the document, which is the new language in Section 100-4. Airport Commission, in its sole and absolute discretion, may, upon consideration of relevant hardship and practical necessity, utilize its own staff or agents to survey and identify trees or other vegetation located on properties in the vicinity of the airport, which have been determined to constitute an airport hazard, and to remove, lower, or otherwise change the same.
So this is removing the responsibility, the financial.
Not exclusively, though, under conditions of hardship and practical necessity. The Airport Commission may, the town may utilize its own staff to undertake this work.
And who decides that?
I guess the capital T town,
Okay,
Airport Commission presumably,
all right.
as a practical matter.
So, as of right now, what we know about is there certain trees have to be trimmed and all of that. And does this article take care of that? I'm trying to get
Yeah, I
down
think
to
my
exactly why
understanding,
now and
I'll
what for.
stand corrected by Alex, my understanding is that the intent of this generally is to clarify who's responsible for what and who can do what.
Okay,
To make it expressly known that the Airport Commission, the town, acting in this instance through the Airport Commission, has the ability to do this if need be.
well, I think from my point of view, if the town could use some of our taxpayer money, all of us, it sounds like all of us could be helping a neighborhood that needs it. And I think that's what we do in times like this, if that is what this is going to accomplish.
So that, in some respects, is more relevant to the next article we're going to talk about, which is the establishment of some funds to do that.
And
This
to,
just provides clarity on who can do what.
all right, in order to get the funds in the next article, does this have to pass?
I believe so.
Yeah, the next article would appropriate the funds. And again, this article was presented by Select Board Member Shell to do this. And again, it was drafted and reviewed by Town Council. And I think it was a way of sort of a compromise between the petition article and where the town is a way that the town could expend town funds on private property, so to speak. So because the town is getting something in return, the Airport Commission is getting, it's making it safer for the pilots, I believe. I'm just,
Well,
Looking for more
since
information.
it has to pass town meeting, I think it is a good thing for citizens to help one another when a certain group of citizens really needs it, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Tracy,
you.
Tracy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think just the general, from what I understand, the intent is to ease a perceived burden of the neighbors nearby, that if they find themselves having difficulty meeting the obligations for the property, this creates a pathway for the Airport Commission to be able to help. I think it's sort of an outreach.
Okay, further questions? Norma, please.
Well, if I recall correctly, and I think I do, the Airport Commission and the town have not always seen eye to eye. So I think that any decisions concerning what happens to the structures or the natural structures such as trees should be a joint decision, not solely the Airport Commission and not solely the town, because the Airport Commission, while they certainly have a lot of abilities and a lot of powers, they are on town property. So I think the town and the Airport Commission need to work together to solve any problem that might arise.
Okay, thank you. Andy, did you have your hand up?
And, yeah, you saw it in the air over my head. I'm going, what? I think, you know, the Airport Commission has legal authorization for certain things around the airport. The property is all municipal. It's owned by the town, but it's administered by the Airport Commission. So, you know, the first was, can the town legally expend any money on private property to accomplish any of this? And I think the question was, probably not. The original proposal, I believe, included the town acquiring by eminent domain an easement over the private properties to allow the maintenance of tree height and so forth. And that was pretty distasteful also, because that could affect the overall property value. But otherwise, how could the town or the Airport Commission be legally authorized to spend money on private property? This, I think, was the workaround, because this underlined language specifically says that the Airport Commission may expend town or airport funds legally appropriated and authorized for this purpose to undertake the cost of this. And then the next article, which is the petition one, in fact, is looking to legally appropriate some money for this purpose. I guess together the two accomplish it, but you know, I'd hate to see. I think the way we have heard the Airport Commission's role interpreted in the past, like the last town meeting season, was that they have almost virtually absolute control over the airport, what happens there. That the town government otherwise cannot interfere, right, because they're subject to both federal and state grants, right, and the contracts under that. So, you know, how do you parse it? This seems like a pretty good compromise, frankly, that it gives the Airport Commission the ability to go ahead and do the work and also to use public funds. And the next article raises those public funds and appropriates them for that purpose. I'm certainly willing to be told, no, I'm wrong, by somebody, somewhere, but so far,
Not sure you are.
that's where I'm at.
All right, thank you, Andy. Other comments or questions? If not, I see somebody with their hand up in the audience. I think it's Nicole Stern. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you. I think it's kind of confusing, and I understand the authority that the Airport Commission has, but I didn't think that that included taxpayer money. And if that's something that is being considered, then I think the taxpayers and the town need to be involved. I don't ever remember the Airport Commission having authority over taxpayer money without it being voted at town meeting. And we knew exactly what it was. I could be wrong, but that's my recollection. And then I got a little confused, and please correct me. I thought that there was money for the tree trimming coming out of free cash. Is that correct?
Well, we do, the next
additional-
article is in reference to that, it's a citizen's petition that we're going to speak about next. But that's separate and apart from the article we're currently considering. But Alex,
Okay.
Alex Halala, our finance director, has her hand up in respect of your first question about town funding. Alex, please.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it's correct statement that the Airport Commission cannot expend any taxpayer money unless it's appropriated at town meeting. Their funding is all through the airport revolving fund. So again, and town meeting sets the limit on that every year under the annual article, which this year will be Article number 8. So, and that limit's set at $150,000. So no, this is not appropriating any money right here. In the petition article, there is $200,000 that will be appropriated from free cash, as you just stated,
If approved by the voters,
if approved by the voters, yes.
and which we'll be hearing next.
Yes.
Oh, okay, well, thanks for clarifying that, but I still don't understand, in this article, the authority that we're solely giving to the Airport Commission. That's different from what they have now.
Again, this amends the general bylaw, so I think it would be, any of the town funds that are expended have to come through the town. They go through the regular accounting process. So the Airport Commission would submit something to the town approving of the expenditure. However, the town manager and the finance director both need to sign off on that. If there are no funds appropriated for a certain purpose, there's no way that those funds could be expended. So if the petition article passes for the $200,000, which is sort of a companion, as I see it, for this article, this kind of gives the town the authorization to expend funds on private property or for private, sort of a public-private partnership. Select Board Member Shell was the one who drafted this, and again, as I said, it went through Town Council, and it's seen as a way to get these, to be able to have the town pay for some of these improvements that help the airport. I guess that's,
Help the airport to what?
Promote public safety.
for public safety to, for some of these, the tree trimming, et cetera. So, and it does say
Separate.
for the trees and/or vegetation located on properties in the vicinity of the Chatham Airport, which have been determined to constitute an airport hazard, without taking a permanent easement on those properties.
Okay, I'll wait until you have the next article. Maybe it'll clear things up, but thank you.
Thank you. Tracy, please.
I was just going to offer as possible clarification that my reading of this article doesn't give the Airport Commission any authority to designate funds other than already appropriated funds under their jurisdiction and enabling them to use them towards the management of this, of vegetation on private land.
You say that's fair, Alex?
That's, yeah, I say that's fair.
Yeah. Tommy, please, and then Norma.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alex, would these, if this passes, would these affected properties be able to get a tax abatement?
I don't believe so, because the value of their property would not change.
Okay. Thank you.
Norma.
Some of these, I have several questions concerning this. Some of the properties that are in private hands, and the persons who own those properties do not want them trimmed because they don't think it's necessary. It's just part of a wholesale, let's cut everything down 2 feet. Where do they stand on this?
I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for that question, but I will note it.
I mean, I've talked with someone who was involved and lives in this area, and they're very much against cutting all the vegetation, because they feel that some of it does not need it, and it infringes upon their rights as taxpayers who own some of that land. And so they don't know where they're going to stand on this, and I think that's a question that should be answered.
Thank you, Norma. Further comments or questions? Now I'll take a motion to adopt Article X, section modification to Section 100-4.
Move it.
Thank you. Thank you, Tracy. Support, Norma? No. Tommy?
No.
Barb?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. 5-2 in this instance. All right, thank you, everybody. And last but not least, a petition article. Reviewed by the town clerk, certified 10 registered voters' signatures. Attached, this would, as it says, provide for $200,000 to be transferred into a fund to reimburse for obstruction removal in the flight path to Chatham Airport. Alex?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and there was, I just gave you one page of the petitioned article, but I did note that there was 7 more signature pages, so it was more than 10 signatures on here. Again, this would appropriate the $200,000 coming from free cash for the removal of the obstructing trees or to cut back the vegetation on private property. So again, this is kind of the companion article to the article that we just discussed. So again, under this, the town of Chatham would pay the cost of the tree removal, but not any costs associated with the likely reduction in property value. Again, whether that, if there's a reduction in property value remains to be seen, because I believe that this article is not looking for, I don't know if this, if there is a navigation easement on the property, then there may be, to Tommy's question, there might be some consideration of abatement, but I'm not sure. Usually abatements are based on your, the value of your house and where your neighborhood is in relation to the other houses around in the same neighborhood, the same type of house. So I'm not sure if that would come to fruition or not, so I don't really want to speak to that until that would be a case-by-case basis. You can't make a blanket statement on that. So again, this would be $200,000. We gave you a copy of the article. I did not have an explanation in the warrant for this, so I don't know how in-depth I can get, but I'm happy to try and answer any questions you might have.
Okay, but I would direct the committee members to the first sentence of the motion, just for the sake of kind of the comprehensive summary. Being the Chatham property owner currently located in the flight path at CQX be reimbursed by the town of Chatham when required by the Airport Commission to survey and confirm the location of obstructing trees and/or to remove from or cut back vegetation on their property. Establish a $200,000 fund for that. Tracy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment in relation to some of the previous question brought up by Norma. My understanding in being proximity to the airport is that it's not just the prerogative of the Airport Commission to trim the trees. We are in fact long overdue in meeting our obligations that are set forth by the FAA and by regulating bodies of aviation. It's not a Chatham-determined height for a tree. It's federally mandated.
That's helpful. Thank you. Joanne, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do we know, Alex, which properties will be affected by the tree trimming and all of this? And, yeah.
I believe that the airport commissioners have met with the property owners who would be affected. So I think there was 21 properties located around the airport that they're looking to have the vegetation trimmed back. So they have gone out and met with the individual property owners.
And are those property owners the one that filed this petition?
I'm not sure who filed the petition at first. I guess the petitioner is Relin Monson.
Yep.
So again, I just provided one page, but there are 7 pages of signatures, so I'm sure many of those may be property owners whose property would be affected by this.
That's what I was trying to find out. Thank you.
Norma, please.
Well, according to what Tracy just said, and I was unaware of that, it really doesn't make much difference what anybody in there says. If that's an FAA regulation, it has to be met. So it says that they would be victimized. That was their words, and there would be recompense for that. Who determines what their value is and how it will be returned to them and in what form?
That would be as I said, on a case-by-case basis if they were to apply for an abatement through the assessor's office, and it would be the Board of Assessors who would review that.
Okay. Further questions? Barbara?
Well, I just have to point out that the airport has been there for quite some time, so I can't imagine that many of the properties are taking a huge hit on their value just because some trees are being trimmed. I mean, I'm not unsupportive or unsympathetic to the cost, but I would be unsympathetic to an abatement.
Thank you. Further questions? If not, I'll take a motion to adopt
So moved.
Article X. Thank you, Tommy. Is there a second for the petition article?
Second.
Tracy, second, thank you. Norma, support? All right, thank you. Tommy?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes?
Chair votes in favor, 7-0. All right, thank you, guys. So Alex, I see we have. Well, one more without documentation. Petitioned article Pate's all alcohol license.
Yes.
I did not see anything in the package regarding that.
Oh, I thought it was 3 end at the end?
No.
No?
So if you can brief us on what the proposal is here, that would be helpful. Please.
Okay, yes, this was, a petition article came in, and this is to see if the town will vote to authorize and direct the Board of Selectmen to petition the general court for special legislation as follows. The town of Chatham shall be exempt from the quotas established under Section 17 of Chapter 138 as it relates to the number of licenses its licensing authority may issue pursuant to Section 12 of Chapter 138 by issuing an additional license for the premises at 1260 Main Street, Pate's Restaurant, bringing the number of said licenses from 16 to 17, or take any action relative thereto. And this is so Pate's could have a year-round license. That's my understanding of this.
Questions, Andy?
Did the select board vote on this yet?
Yes, the select board voted on this, 5 in favor and none opposed.
Really? Interesting. For all of the year-round liquor licensed restaurants that were closed for most of this winter. That's nuts.
Yeah.
I guess I don't have anything particularly against alcohol or restaurants that want to serve it, but why are we going for a general court petition for them specifically? I guess that's the problem.
Again, this was a petitioned article, so that came into the town, and it's my understanding that if you have a year-round all-alcohol license, you have to stay open year-round. You can only shut down for, maybe 2 weeks at a time.
Right, but the licensing authority hasn't been paying a whole lot of attention to that lately.
Right.
All right. Too many places have been
You can
closed.
apply for an extension.
Right.
For a seasonal extension.
You can have a year-round license, but say you know that you need to be closed for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, which puts you in excess of the allotted 2 weeks. If you
okay.
petition to the Board of Selectmen, Select Board, and explain why, they are likely to grant you that exception.
No, and several of our in-town licensees have taken advantage of that over the last few years. So,
No,
Barbara, please.
Well, many of them.
I'm sorry, Andy, you done?
no, never mind.
Okay, Barbara, please.
Well, many of them have taken advantage of that over many years, and my understanding is that 30 days is the absolute maximum. So if you've had 30 days, if you've been closed for 30 days in the winter, you should be open the rest of the days. So I'm a little at sea about how I'm going to vote on this too, because I think if year-round license holders are not staying open for at least 11 months, why do we need another one? To Andy's point.
Norma, please.
My feeling is you have a law, you either obey it or you get punished for disobeying it.
Tracy?
I don't really understand the connection that we're making right now between being open 12 months of the year and Pate's wanting us to have an additional year-round license. Right, like the restaurants that, hi, Andy. The restaurants that, well, first of all, there aren't any that are shut for longer than 30 days. It can't be. But so whether or not other restaurants are only open 11 months or 11 and a half months doesn't really have any bearing on whether or not we should be granting Pates their own license, correct?
That strikes me as independent issues. Andy, please.
On the other hand, the desire for an all-alcoholic liquor license year-round, the competition for that can be fairly strong. And at least in my experience in the past, typically the licensing authority needs to entertain applications from whoever might be qualified for the annual licenses that are available. In this instance, we are targeting specifically one establishment, which for many, many years was certainly happy with a seasonal license with the extension through January 15. I don't know, it seems like real inside baseball.
Well,
Why
again,
should we endorse that?
this is not coming from the town. The town did not put forth this
I
warrant.
understand.
This is a petition article, and by law, we are required, with, 10 taxpayers did sign it, so we have no choice but to put it on the warrant and put it before the voters.
I share Andy's concern, I think. I guess from my perspective, if I were a licensee in the town of Chatham and counted on a certain amount of business over the course of the dark months,
Right.
to suddenly find I've got whatever 1/12th or 1/15th increase in my competition because a private group petitioned the general court through town meeting to get a license, I'd be pissed, to be frank. So I share Andy's concern on this. Barbara, well, Joanne first, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Within town and state regulations, I'm all for encouraging businesses to grow and to make money the best way they can in this town. And they're not going to be operating outside the law. It's not possible. Or they get reprimanded or fined or closed down. No, I'm in favor of giving a business the opportunity to increase their income.
Okay, Barbara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alex, I don't think I've ever seen a petition article like this before. Ordinarily, wouldn't a restaurateur go to the licensing bureau of the town and request an additional license before coming? I mean, I know you can't speculate what was behind the petition, but isn't this unusual?
It is, but we only have 16 all-alcohol licenses. So they're asking us to petition the court to allow us to have an additional license.
Okay.
Andy, please.
And to address one of the concerns, why aren't we petitioning the general court to have 20 or 21 or 2? Right, anybody who wants one can get one, right? Because we'll have free availability. Right? Instead, we are statutorily limited, or at least by the legislature, to the 17, right? Or 16, I'm sorry. And this is sharpshooting a very particular restaurant, and in general, I think the idea of using our legislative power and the general court's legislative power to deal with a single specific alcohol license.
Investor group.
Yeah, it just gets me. That's all.
Tracy?
I'm inclined to support this just because, sort of like what Joanne was saying, that, it's hard enough to try and make a living here year-round in the hospitality business. So I want to give everyone the best shot they can have. But I think it's a good point in terms of saying that we'll have a 17th license, but immediately designating who receives it. It does seem like it would warrant some invitation of applicants for that license. But I have heard others express the need for another year-round license.
Well, there was the challenge that, I think it was a Mexican restaurant 4 or 5 years ago that was thinking about moving onto Crowell Road, but couldn't get licensed. They tried to do a little horse trading with existing restaurants and weren't able to get the license. They didn't open. Okay, sorry, Norma, please.
Well, certainly there's no shortage of drinkers in Chatham. So no matter how many licenses we had, we would have plenty using them. But I think, employees are rare in the sense that in the wintertime, there are not that many. Housing is a problem, and employees are another problem. And I think the way it's set up now seems to be most fair to everyone. And those persons who are petitioning to be open all around, the year around, are putting the others at a disadvantage because then they also would have to open, and they have not the employees or the place to house them. And I think the way that it's set up now, it seems to be more fair. There are just so many dollars to go around, and there are just so many people available to work these establishments. And I think for an establishment that is well-grounded and already has a large group of persons working for them, puts the little guy at a disadvantage, and I don't think we should interfere with the program as it's already set up.
Thank you, Norma. Tommy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too am going to vote in favor of this because of what Joanne and Tracy said. Like Tracy said, that some of the restaurants are able to close, with year-round liquor licenses, are able to close for a certain amount of time, 30 days maximum. But this will give us another chance to go to a place that isn't closed. So that's why I'm in favor of this article.
All right, thank you. All right, Joanne?
Small business, the backbone of the American economy. Your large corporations can get just about anything they want because they can hire any lobbyist they want. Our small business supports the American people and American industry. It's the backbone of it all. So I'm in favor.
Okay.
If you don't ask, you don't get.
All right.
voting again,
On that
Joanne?
note, I'm going to ask for a motion to support this.
So moved.
And a second?
Second,
All right, support, Norma?
No.
Tommy?
yes.
Barbara?
No.
Tracy?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Andy?
No.
The chair votes no. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 against, 3 in favor. All right. Next article on the agenda is the report of the Finance Committee, which I enthusiastically will say was forwarded to Shauna this morning. Alex did yeoman's duty over the weekend and fact-checking and chart creating, so I have the committee grateful, Alex, to you for all your efforts in that regard. Shauna has it. She is going to paginate it and make it all look pretty, and, I mean, it was pretty to begin with, but she's gonna fix the pagination. And once that's done and there's not giant gaps where a chart needs to go, I will have it circulated to you guys once I get it back from Shauna. But our work is done. I think it's a good report. I'm appreciative of all the input we got. We got a lot of input this year, which was great. And for me, it was an extremely helpful part of the process. So thank you guys very much. And I think that's it. Any other comments or questions?
Do we have a meeting Thursday?
Well, let's talk about a meeting Thursday. I think the short answer is no, because we've just finished our work for this year. Tracy, how was it?
Great.
Glad.
Be on mic. It was wonderful. It's been a pleasure.
Glad you joined us. Okay, no, I think we're pretty much done. We'll have, next step, I guess, is gonna be assigning speaking roles for town meeting. I need to see if my doctor's gonna let me go to town meeting. But once we get everything settled down, we'll start working through the article roster. If there are things that people specifically, as we kind of typically do, the things that people specifically want to speak to on the scorecard, please reach out to me and let me know, because I'll begin to assign speaking roles in the next week or two. And Joanne, please.
Mr. Chairman, are you saying this is our last meeting except maybe one more
Maybe,
until before town meeting?
maybe.
Just thinking about my calendar, so.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Well, thank you. We were fairly efficient this year, and I'm not sure we're any earlier or later than we typically are, but it seems to have gone pretty smoothly this year, so I'm
little earlier,
grateful
I think.
for it. Thank you. So with that tinge of sadness that this is going to be our last meeting until town meeting,
Well, excuse me, there are,
Oh, wait, there's more.
there's, I think, one article that we don't have a motion on. There's the current year budget adjustments. I do not expect anything on that, as well as there was another article, but that can wait until right before town meeting if necessary.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, that's, Alex raises a very good point. This is typically the case, hold an hour before town meeting, just in case we do need to wrangle up a couple more cats and dogs, but otherwise I do think we're done. So thank you, and with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn almost for the fiscal year. In a second.
Second.
Thank you. Norma? Tommy?
Yes, and thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Tommy. Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes, thank you.
Joanne?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Andy?
Yes?
I'm tempted to vote no, just because parting such sweet sorrow, but I'll vote yes.
You do a very good job.
7-0. We're out of here. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Norma. Thank you, Alex.